Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Criterion Collection review series, where I'm going through my personal Criterion collection and reviewing every movie I have there, some of which I'm rewatching, some of which I'm watching for the first time. And today's movie is a little interesting because it is the first film from a legendary director, or one of his earliest works, and it's a film that I want to love more than I actually do, and we'll get more into it. But that movie is The Killing from Stanley Kubrick. It's number 575 in the collection. So for a little bit of context, while The Killing isn't Kubrick's first feature film he ever made, that honor, I believe, goes to Killer's Kiss, if I remember correctly. It was one of his first studio films, or his first attempts at being a more mature director. And because of that, there are a lot of staples of his career that you can already see, and you can definitely tell there's something there, right? There is a germ of an idea, there is greatness hidden within, but for me, it never fully comes together. It never fully realizes the interesting parts of its script and its characters and its direction. But to get into the plot, the Killing's plot is actually fairly simple. It's a heist movie where a group of sort of criminals, part-time workers, people who are down and out, are looking to rob a horse track. And so they set up the first half of the movie, developing the plan, getting it ready, making sure everything is right. Then the second half of the movie is the heist. Spoilers, the heist doesn't go very well. You have to see just how badly it goes after that. And that, in a way, the heist and the simplicity of the plot is at once a strength and a weakness for the film, in my opinion. Where I feel like the plot is so straightforward, along with the characters, that it was difficult for me to really care about them. I think a part of that also comes just from the time period, where a lot of the men are very tough and very, very, very masculine and very demoralizing to women. And I feel like a lot of the female characters in the film are very, they're very weak, not just physically, but along with their presence in the film. And so it was difficult for me to really latch on to anything within the film. It was difficult for me to really care about anybody. But I did enjoy them trying to plan the heist. There's a lot of really great discussions about it. There's a lot of great tension building. And it's a very meticulously designed film. A lot of focus is put on the precise planning, going to the right locations, opening the right doors, doing the right thing at the exact right time. It's all timed perfectly. And this meticulousness, this detail, is further supported by the film's narration, which reads almost like a police report or almost like a very dry news article, where the narrator describes exactly what's happening at an exact point of saying, at 500 hours, so-and-so was arriving at the hotel, something like that. But Kubrick also uses this narration to tell a non-linear story where we'll have a scene where it's two characters at 9 o'clock at night, and the narrator will go 4 hours earlier at this place, and you'll follow a different character and what they were going through. And it kind of shows, in a weird way, the progression of the day and of what happened, and everyone's involvement and how they're all connected with the heist and what's happening. It's very weird and interesting. I don't know if it always works. Sometimes it's a little distracting. But it does show a young director willing to experiment and try new things out and really, really dig deep into the film and into what's going on. But then the highlight of the film is the heist itself, which takes up the last 30-40 minutes, I guess, where we have already been told how the plan is going to go down. We know where everybody has to be. We've seen him recruit people. We've seen him go over the plan so many times that when we see it play out, it's kind of exciting to see everything sort of fall into place, the tension of trying to get to the right place at the right time, everybody's sort of miniature struggles as this whole thing is going on, making sure they fill their role within the crime. It's very well done, and it's just very engaging, very interesting, very dark at times. Part of the plan is that they have to shoot a horse, and so they have a sniper that goes into a parking lot nearby and he forms a friendship or a weird acquaintanceship, I guess, with a black man working there. And of course, it's the 1950s, so there's that racial tension or that undertone there. And while they form that friendship, once the attendant sort of keeps talking to the sniper and keeps messing with him, he immediately switches and starts calling him the N-word and, using racist slurs and metaphors and things like that, sort of showing how terrible of a person he is. And that's a big thing about the movies. Everybody involved is a terrible person. There isn't anyone that's really redeemable. They all are kind of charming and maybe slightly sympathetic, but they're all bad people that all may have decent reasons for wanting to do this, but the film doesn't really let them off the hook, as you'll see from the tragic ending. But also the finale, where everything does sort of fall apart, where the heist mission and all the money and everything just gets thrown away, people are killed, it's almost like a massacre. It's very dark for the time, and I feel like a lot of times in noir films or crime films, especially of that era, you wouldn't have the entire cast die. You may have like a couple of people die to prove a point, maybe the main character, maybe they try to pull off a heist and it doesn't fully work out, things like that. But in The Killing, it's just a massacre, nobody makes it out, and it's all these random little oversights, and it's sort of ironic and maybe nihilistic even, how it portrays the failings of the mission, where everything was so airtight, everything was so meticulously calculated, but then you should have a few stray ends that sort of eventually come back and ruin everything in a sense, and that's interesting to see play out. But yeah, beyond that, I really don't know what else to say. It's a well shot film. The performances are good, not amazing, but they're good, and I feel like the most interesting thing about The Killing is how it serves as a precursor to Kubrick's future work, where the film is not like it's a very good movie and it's a very interesting movie, but in comparison to the rest of his filmography, it's kind of weak, but it shows Kubrick having a lot of passion, a lot of higher aspirations, a lot of ambition. He was 28 when he made the film. He had never really made a big studio film this way, and it sort of begins his legacy and a lot of themes and motifs and ideas that he would mess with later on in his career. And in fact, the next movie he did after this is Paths of Glory, which I think is one of Kubrick's best films and one of his most underrated. And it's almost like The Killing is sort of this stepping stone into better films, better work. It's almost like, it almost reminds me of Following from Christopher Nolan. If you haven't seen it, Following is Christopher Nolan's first film, and you could almost categorize it as a student film. It's so early in his career, and it's a film that on its own is like fine. It's interesting, it does a lot of cool things, but it's not necessarily something you would write home about. It is a film that you watch and you go, oh, this kid's interesting, I wonder where he'll go. But knowing Christopher Nolan's career since then and seeing the themes he's dealt with, the way he structures his films, the topics he deals with, things like that, it's so fascinating to watch Following from that perspective, because you see the seeds of his entire career being planted in the movie's, I think, less than an hour and a half, in this tiny little segment. Same with The Killing, where The Killing is just seeing those ambitious seeds being planted in Kubrick's themes and ideas and interest beginning to bloom throughout his career. But everybody needs a starting point, and this is Kubrick's. And while it's not a particularly great movie, it is a really good movie and one worth seeing, especially if you are a Kubrick fan. And if you are a Kubrick fan, this release from Criterion is just going to rock your world. It is a really, really well done release. So of course there are interviews with the producer, various actors from the film. But the coolest feature on here, in my opinion, is a actual new restoration of Stanley Kubrick's first feature film, his independent film Killer's Kiss, which he famously sort of not disowned, but did not like, felt it was so early and not representative of his career. But it's still fascinating to watch just to see where he began and where his career started out from with this film, along with The Killing. Oh, and there's also actually a sort of introduction or a discussion of the film as well included here. So I mean, if you're a Kubrick fan and you want to see where he got started, this is the place to go. This is a really great release of those two movies. The essay included here is also really nice. Written by Hayden Guest, I hope I said that right, but Hayden Guest. The essay does a really great job of sort of synthesizing and saying it much more eloquently than I've been saying it, this idea of how The Killing shows where Kubrick started. Where Killer's Kiss is a director really experimenting, really trying to find his style, while The Killing is Kubrick really cementing it, really saying, this is what I'm about. It's almost like the thesis statement for his career. And it's really fascinating to see the connections between this film and common motifs and ideas and filming techniques he would use later on in his career. Again, it does that really great thing of mini Criterion essays of sort of placing the film in context, not only in the time it was made, but in the filmmaker's own career. There's also a short segment that's an interview with Marie Windsor, who she's one of the female characters in the film, and she gives a little bit of insight into how Kubrick worked and how even early on he was a very meticulous and controlled director, having everything planned out so early in advance and only doing well, funny enough, he has everything planned out so well that in this film apparently they only did 1 or 2 takes, very few takes, which is very different than his later films, as you may famously know. As a film, I don't know if The Killing is necessarily all that great. It's very good. I don't regret watching it or owning this release, but as a Criterion release and as a sort of piece of film history, it's very fascinating and well worth getting, especially for fans of Kubrick and his later works. I think it's a fascinating sort of look into his career, where he began, and sort of showing you where he was going to go after that. Either way, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please like it. If you want more people to see it, please share it around. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, where next time we're going to be talking about the fascinating film trilogy, the 3 colors trilogy, so blue, white, and red, which I'm very excited to revisit and talk about. But either way, hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.